What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Run It Back. We're on episode 3 now of season 2, and we want to thank y'all for taking this ride with us. We got a good one today. As always, I'm your boy Prime Source. What we talking about today, bro?
So we got a good one. We got a great one. Great one.
Yeah.
My second favorite movie of all time, Coming to America. As you all know, Coming to America 2 is dropping via Amazon Prime, right? Or Prime TV, whatever it's called. It's coming out March 5th, which is Friday. And we figure since we're getting into 2 on Friday, we might as well talk about the original today.
Yeah, and I had quite a few folks that got kind of excited when I told them we were going to revisit this particular movie, and the timing was perfect. You and I have been talking about doing this since we started Running Back. It's one of the movies that we mentioned, and now it's really like the perfect time to do it because, as you mentioned, we're about to get the second movie. So I've been so hyped about doing this particular one. A movie that originated back in 1988. I'm gonna go ahead and tell my age. I was in high school when this came out, so surprise, surprise. Well, not a surprise to all, but one of the most memorable movies I've seen ever, during my lifetime. So, man, let's get into this, man. Let's just go ahead and get into this.
Yes, sir.
We'll go through a few scenes here, but let's start at the beginning, man. So we see the beautiful country of Zamunda. And we see your boy Oha, who is one of the characters in here, who's a personal servant of royalty there on Zamunda. And he walks in and he wakes up Eddie Murphy's character, Prince Hakeem. He's sleeping, and he comes in and he cues the violinist. This dude got violinists overseeing his bedroom source. Cues the violinist to wake up Prince Hakeem, man.
Yeah, you got the violinist, and of course you have the flower, what are they called? Flower throwers. I don't know what their job title was, but I wanted to see if you realize, which is a couple of things because I just watched it again today for the 100th time. I wanted to see if you realized. First of all, it took like 2 minutes for anybody to say anything. It was like 2 minutes. It was probably longer than 2 minutes. It was probably more like 3 minutes before anybody said anything. So there was only scenery and music. And then, do you know who the first person to say something in the movie was?
The first person to say something in the movie was Hakeem, right?
Nope. First person to say something was Garcelle Bouveau.
Yeah. Okay.
Fancy.
Gotcha.
Fancy from Jamie Foxx show.
Okay. That was a good one. You're absolutely right now that I think about it. A lot of people don't realize to this day that's her in that movie, or people call it mad late.
It's a lot of that goes on in this movie because there's so many people that went on to do other things, more things, possibly from originating in this role that, or in this movie, I should say, that is crazy. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, just all the faces in this joint.
Yeah, man. So that's a good catch. Now, you said it was another thing. I don't know if it's the same thing I'm thinking about, but were you thinking about the fact that it seemed to be that there were 2 toilets in the bathroom? Is that what you're talking about?
No. I didn't even know. I don't think I ever looked all the way into the bathroom because I was just listening to what they were saying. But that's funny though. I wouldn't be surprised. He needed a lot of room because he never wiped himself. So it had to be some space in there for people to be able to maneuver.
Yeah, I guess one was for doing number 1. One was doing number 2. I guess, but it seems when you watch it looks like there's 2 toilets in the bathroom in his room. Nobody else living in that room with him. So that is crazy. So, and we see, of course, they're royalty. So he's got bathers, got somebody brush his teeth, dry them off, all of that, man. Like it's crazy. So And then we get to meet the parents. We get to meet the parents, sitting down at breakfast. So we see, of course, the king and his wife at one end of the table, James Earl Jones. And I forget the lady that played his wife's name. But
Madge Sinclair.
yeah, Madge Sinclair. And they're at one end of the table. And of course, Akeem is down at the other end of the table, and he all of a sudden he realized something's wrong. So he comes on down to speak with them at the other end of the table. And we quickly find out that Akeem is not really, he loves being royalty, but he feels like there's a few things missing in his life, some things he would like to do differently. He's been pampered and babied, his entire life because he's a son of a king. Well, we quickly find out through everything he kicks it with to his parents that he kind of wants to, experience some things. He wants to get out. And we find out after he takes a walk that he wants to, we found out during the conversation that he's not really big up on the whole wedding idea that they got set up for him as well, which seems to be tradition.
Yeah, I think he would have been, I think he was looking for a reason to not get married to somebody he was being forced to get married to.
Why can't I find my own wife? Yeah.
Yeah. So even when we get into the original wedding ceremony, that was supposed to take place, we see that he at least gives her a chance. Probably not a real chance, but he wanted to see what was happening and see if he would even give in to this idea of an arranged marriage.
Yeah, and then we meet Semi. He of course played by Arsenio Hall, comes off as a Eddie Haskell type, if you leave it to Beaver people. You know exactly. What I'm saying? He's a kind of mischievous, he could be a good friend, but he kind of out for self as well. And Absolutely. He shows up there at the table. And it's going to come to take Akeem out for his daily workouts. Evidently, Akeem works out daily. And once we find out he's pretty fit, through all the activities and stuff, that they have going on.
That man did a tumbling sequence like he was in the Olympics, like back handspring. Then he did the full. I don't know. He did a lot of flipping. But the funny part from between them leaving the table, which you see the parents looking at him like, "Here go this dude," to when they get together, and of course he's speaking properly, and like, "Oh yes, respect to the parents." And then he says to Akeem, what he said, "Let's see if you can defend yourself, you sweat from a baboon's balls." Oh my gosh. Stupid.
So you was feeling that analogy as far as the Eddie Haskell thing too, right? Because man, earlier when he shows up at the breakfast table,
yeah,
I was just remarking to my mother the other day just how beautiful the queen's skin was. Like I'm like, that's Eddie Haskell all day. Like,
all day.
Mrs. Cleaver, I was just talking to my mother the other day about how great it smells every time I come over here. It's like it's just ridiculous. That's Eddie Haskell all the way.
Agreed.
So then we get into the whole wedding. So the wedding day comes, and everybody's there, and there's pretty much looks like just about everybody who is somebody in Zamunda is there at this big wedding, and Akeem he's going to meet his wife, soon to be wife, or supposed to be wife for the first time, and there's we get the whole big ceremony, the whole thing, and the dancing and the whole 9 yards, and it's a little shook because Big Mama ends up coming up there first, and they think, is this her? And they all look at each other like, oh no.
Yo, you know what's funny though? There was nothing wrong with that lady, for real, other than the fact that she was loud. Sometimes I'd be like, when these people take these roles, I mean, obviously they know
they're gonna know what you're gonna say
for the way they look, but it's just funny to see. And this is 33 years later, so it's easy to say now, but just how we look at people and be like he's supposed to be looking for his soulmate, whatever he's looking for, and he sees this lady. First he hears her, and that might have been the part that threw him off from the beginning because she was loud coming up. And so maybe that's what it was, but yeah, he kind of threw her out the window, off the roof.
You gotta wonder what that conversation is like when you're first getting somebody to play that role. Like, look, this is gonna be your role. I mean, you're not gonna be the most, attractive. So we gotta play off the fact that you're big and and I thought I'm saying another movie I thought about this in a movie that I didn't enjoy quite as much as a lot of people that I know, especially people in this household, is you ever see Norbit?
Yeah.
All right, so you remember there was a part in Norbit when I guess Norbit was younger and there's like the little girl. She's kind of chubby and the whole 9 yards. Like, what is that conversation like when you you're gonna play this role, but
Yeah.
we're gonna be kind of making fun of your character, but it's not actually, actually you. So you got to wonder how those conversation goes.
You got
those
to be a
conversations
person going into that you already know. One, I know I'm big, or I know I'm less attractive than others. It's something. It got to be something. But you really got to want to be a star or a movie star or just in movies, love film, to know that you're going to be possibly insulted,
Yeah,
character.
got to be strong.
Mm.
So we get on and we finally get to see his wife, wife to be, and we think Vanessa Bell. Vanessa Bell back there. Vanessa Bell Calloway later, but yeah. Sing it, Source. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Your boy Oha out there belting like he's trying to do his thing.
Free from infection.
Hey, did you know, quickly that they tried to spin off a sitcom off of this show?
Off the movie?
Off this movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's Coming to America. I think it was the exact name, but yeah, back then they tried to spin a TV show off of it. Starred Tommy Davidson in a similar role. And what's his name? Paul Bates, that played Oha, was actually playing the Oha in this TV show, but I don't think only got to like the pilot.
Wow.
And it never got picked up. But one of the things it had working against it, of course, were two of the things. One, there is no Eddie Murphy. Okay. Two, it debuted, I believe, on the 4th of July. And people are watching fireworks, drinking, thinking about how they call it into work the next day. Anybody thinking about watching TV, man. So had a lot of stuff working against it. And of course, it just never went anywhere after the first episode.
Dang, they set it up for failure, but they had to know that going in. So was it set up for failure? I don't want to get into all that.
And no disrespect to Tommy Davidson, but Tommy Davidson ain't Eddie Murphy.
True, absolutely.
There's a big difference, in those two comedian actors. So after we go through the scenes, whereas of course Akeem wants to meet with his soon-to-be wife, I was gonna say backstage, behind the scenes in another room or whatever.
Right.
And he's she's letting him know I'll do whatever you tell me to do or whatever. Hop like a dog. Which in today, you try that now, that's gonna be problems. You try that scene in a movie now with social media and everything. Hop like a dog, bark like a dog. I mean, hop. We used to make a noise like was it was it orangutan or something?
Yeah, gorilla or something.
Yeah, you couldn't do that today, bro.
That joint is hilarious, though. She said she was trained from birth to be his queen, be his bride, which you can tell that this is not like the mom, not that. Like maybe that's how she developed over the years into herself. As she said, she grew to love him later on in life. But if she was trained the same way as this young lady was trained to be the future queen, the princess at the time, I don't know if she'd have made it. I don't know if they had the same personality to do so. But Vanessa Bell at the time, right? Mm-hmm. She was hilarious, actually. She was very funny. So
the good thing about her, though, unlike a lot of these people we saw back in the day that played these parts that could have been considered insulting or humiliating, luckily she's had a fairly decent, acting career over the years. Unlike a lot of the other people that are hoping they take these parts knowing things are going to happen and never really take off. She's had a pretty good career.
Some would say she's had a great career, but that's true.
Yeah, so leads to, of course, Akeem and Pops, the King decide they take a walk together, and when Akeem further expresses that he wants to get out, he wants to see the world and a lot of things he wants to do before he actually gets married. Of course, the king thinks he just wants to sow his royal oats. That's all this thing is really about. And just pretty much tells him off top, okay, no problem. 40 days, go out to the sow your royal oats, do what you got to do. And he comes back, and they come back into the wedding and announces, the wedding's postponed. And that's it. Nobody say jack. It's postponed or whatever. It'll reconvene in 40 days. That's it.
Yeah.
God bless. Good night.
Like the king was like, in his mind, there is no other reason for you to not want this life that I've created for you. Like, here it is on a platter. You don't have to do anything. She's gonna do whatever you tell her to do. So you should be grateful, and this should be perfect. Like, you should have no problems. Oh, you love. Oh yeah. Oh, you just want to smash. So yeah, let's go get this off. Cool, because that's what it would be if it was me. I feel like that's what he was thinking. If it was me, that would be my reasoning.
No doubt. So they take off, of course. They decide, through spinning the globe, that they are going to end up in Queens. We're going to New York, and where we're going to go in New York, Queens, of course. You're looking for your queen. And that was well played. And that was definitely well played. And of course, they head on out. They ask the taxi driver, of course, to take them to the most common place ever. And he's like, there ain't no problem, not a common place. They said, places down here. And we get to some of the most memorable characters ever. Like, we get to hear the barbers in the barbershop. So they decide to go into the barbershop, right? And so we get to meet the barbers, man, which were played pretty much by three characters. Of course, Arsenio Hall was there. He was Morris. Mm-hmm. We had the owner of the barbershop, which was Clarence. We had the Jewish gentleman that was there reading the paper, which was also Eddie. And then we had, did you know who played the other character, Sweets?
I have no idea who that is.
People to this day do not realize who that is. Well, they won't know who he is, right? You may have heard him if you listen to any comedy sketches or talks, especially from the late Charlie Murphy, right? That is Clint Smith, who is actually Eddie Murphy's very best friend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He is his very best friend. He's like his number one guy. So Eddie has been able to get him into he had a small part in Trading Places. There was a time that he got him in on a skit on Saturday Night Live. There's a couple of the small appearances. But yeah, that's what it is. Clint Smith, whatever. That's Eddie Murphy's best friend.
I had no idea. I mean, of course, he's the side character of the three. He's the least noticeable, but he was definitely there because he's in the.
Yeah, he was that dude.
Yes, you did. No, you did not. Well, that's later on, but yeah, it was four dope parts played. Two by Eddie Murphy, one by Arsenio, and then Mr. Smith. No
doubt. So and then they go get their apartment, and they go to a rundown, rat-infested, like crazy apartment. I don't know who would really want to live there unless you had to. And they requested me the accommodation, exactly what they got, right? It was terrible. But then one of my favorite scenes though is when they, get settled in and they out trying to get, in the mix with everybody else and blend in, is when they come out of this spot, dog, with all that New York gear on. They got on everything. They got on New York Jets jacket, a Mets jacket, I love New York buttons. They New York down, bro.
And they this must be how the New Yorkers dress because they have all this New York gear they representing.
I love New York.
Before that, when they were getting into the apartment, I have to mention Freddie Faison because Stu, your rent's due.
The rent is due.
Downstairs. And did you notice, I just want to make sure it's not just me, did you notice as they walk up the stairs, after he said, "You conscious?" They go up the stairs. Stu is laying there, and what does Stu do?
Pass gas.
Yes. Yeah. That joke's so stupid. It's so.
I remember the movie theater just lighting up when that happened. Back when it first came out, we went there rolling.
Yes. Yeah. Hilarious.
And So of course, this is around about the time we see them. We see the infamous Soul Glow commercial, the first Soul Glow. Then they're looking at it on the TV, being advertised. That your soul, like crazy. Like, did you like ever have any of the homies? First of all, did you ever have one of them curls?
Come on, bro. No, that was not my swag right there at all. Thank you, Jesus.
You ever had the homeboys with this?
Uh, I mean, I remember people having that look, but nah, not. I wouldn't say homeboy. Nobody I kicked it with. Nah.
And then we get another scene with the barbers, of course, man, and they still in there talking about boxing.
Okay, I did not realize the name of the barbershop until today.
Was it Mighty
Mighty Sharp.
Sharp? Yeah, yeah.
I never even looked at the sign to see what it said. I just knew that was the barbershop. My hyphen T hyphen Sharp. Hilarious.
Yeah, and I think the first few times I saw it, like years ago, I didn't look at it. I saw the Mighty. I just thought it was like Mighty Shop, and it was probably like a few years later I realized it was Mighty Sharp. Like boom, I missed it, back then. But hey,
Yeah.
it happens. But it was clever. That
Hilarious.
was clever. But they still arguing about boxing. Of course, he walks in there, and he wants to get a cut. And Clarence, Clarence cuts off. Was a rat tail? Just snips it
Bruh,
off.
hey, my brother-in-law had one of them Jones when I met my wife. He was like 8, 9, something like that. And he had one of them Jones. Let it grow. I was like, what? And then one day he decided to cut it off when he got a little old.
Yeah, he gets.
Not as old as Akeem, but
Yeah, so they get it cut off because he's trying to get out there and try to finally meet a woman. So so they go outside hitting the club scene. Him and Simi get out there doing their thing. And you know what I did not realize as many times I never paid attention to, and I've seen this movie minimum 20 times in my life, minimum front to back. And that don't include all the times I just happen to turn to it. And it might be on and I watch, I never really paid attention to the fact that them going out on the club scene takes place over several nights because they got on different clothes.
Yeah.
I got so caught up in the fact that they were going out, and then the funny scenes when they're talking to all these women, and most of those are hilarious enough. I'm Jonah, how can the former, all this. I never paid attention that they started out going out. The first time they had on sweaters, another time they end up in, suit jackets and stuff. I never paid attention to the fact that this happened over several nights of them really trying.
Yeah. And Semi actually says that, I guess he said it to Clarence. He said it to Clarence when they were talking about where they were going to go on that last day before they went to the Black Awareness rally.
Mm-hmm.
That they had been out to all the clubs in Queens.
And I missed that. Yeah, I did. I did miss that. Probably hard to believe. But yet, all the times I've seen it. But yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. Different clothes. And you mentioned Clarence. Tell him, I know, going to meet a nice woman. Where I'm going tonight on the youth center. Black Awareness rally.
Let me back up just real quick.
Go ahead.
I noticed this quote just this morning. I noticed this quote and I wrote it down because I thought it was interesting. After the dates and before they talked to Clarence, Akeem says to Semi, "Is it my imagination or does every woman in New York have a severe emotional problem?"
Emotional problem.
Bruh, I had to stop the joke. I was like, hold on, bro. Let me back this up. Yo, I mean, this is not disrespect to New York City women. Of course, we love you.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. But like you said, your boy Clarence closed up the shot, points him towards the direction of the Black Awareness rally that's about to go on over at the youth center. And of course, we get to meet that dude, Mr. Reverend Brown.
Yes.
Arsenio at one of his finest again, and some of those lines are like, you cannot forget, man. They said the Larry Flint with the Hugh Hefner on high. Like they got these women on stage in like 2-piece nightwear bikini sets or whatever
Yeah,
at a Black awareness rally. Like, what kind of
bruh.
awareness you trying to raise, bro?
They was trying to raise some money. I mean, if they can do the Miss America Joan, if you can do the Miss America Joan, you can do the Black awareness rally with some the swimsuit models. I don't know what you call
That you have now.
it. He was rolling. He was rolling.
Man, the hair, like,
And I don't even think like that when Eddie said, I think in my mind, I've always accredited when he says, I'm very happy to be here. I've always credited that moment to the basketball game, I think. But it's another thing he says in the basketball game. But that's what he says that during the preaching moment, I guess you call it.
you think about your boy Randy Watson, man.
Randy Watson. That's your favorite line, Prime? Go hit it for him one time.
Sexual chocolate.
From what episode of
He said, what's going down episode of That's My Mama?
That's what I'm talking about.
Which is a hidden gem in itself. That's My Mama. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Shit. Forgotten, but yeah. Yeah, man.
So good.
Terrible. Getting terrible. I'm trying to think. It was a rapper. I think it might have been a West Coast rapper. Somebody sampled that. It might have been KD, Ice Cube's boy. Somebody sampled that on one of y'all hip hop now. Now, as soon as I heard it back, I was like, man, that was on Coming to America. I think it might have been KD. But yeah, classy, man. So your boy named the band Sexual Chocolate. What I love about it was he's been my reverend since I was a little boy.
Gave him a kiss on the cheek, yo.
He looked like. And we get to see, and we finally get to meet your boy, man, Mr. Cleo McDowell, and one of his daughters. And they posted up at the Black Awareness rally. They brought some food from the family business, McDowell's restaurant. And I got to say this though. You know what? The first thing I noticed, and it still cracks me up to this day. Man, Mr. McDowell, right? So you know John Amos got that big forehead, right? And his hairline way back here. And why he got a part way back?
Yes. Rocking that Joe.
He was killing that part, bro.
Bro, why? So this was 88. And we think back to the 70s and good times, and his hairline is already way back there. Like, what was this joke? Even when you think back, when he was Kansas City Mac, and is it Let's Do It Again, or was it
Let's Do It Again?
Let's Do It Again. And his joint is back there, and that joint, when they go to the jail scene and all that, his joint is back there. Yo, he was Diesel too, dog. Like back in the
yes, sir.
The Blaxploitation joint. Good God, for real.
Come on, bro. Not the part though, man. Like I can't get past that part. Every time I see that, as soon as I see that, I'm done. Yeah. As if there's not enough funny things in this movie, but that just kills me right there, right?
It's always the small things that put over the top, man. The details are the funniest part. You can have the big funny moments, but the details, small moments, that's the hilarious stuff for me too.
And we meet Lisa for the first time, Sherry Hadley's character, and she's out there asking the folks to give to a good cause, and she's out there talking. Immediately, she catches Akeem's eye, like, man, all these women we done went through that one. Wow, she's just something about her. Catches his eye immediately, and they give the address. Of course, she gives the address to they give the address to the restaurant that her father owns during the movie. And of course, your boy Akeem quickly takes note of where that is, because like I'm going there, I'm going to see her. Like if I don't go nowhere else, I'm going to 8507 Queens Boulevard. Bro. It's gonna happen.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And the funny part is you see them getting jobs, yo. Like you would have never thought. Well, I mean, I guess love or the idea of love make people do some things, but includes going to Queens to find a wife when you're the princess of mother. But the funny part, it's all funny. Just watching the interaction outside with Mr. McDowell, Semi, and Akeem. Then you have the photographer who's out there taking pictures, and he explains, Mr. McDowell explains the relationship of his restaurant to McDonald's.
McDonald's. He said,
Yeah,
he said we got the Big Mac. They got the Big Mac.
we got the Big Mac. Oh, later on in the movie, and I didn't notice this either. I don't think I noticed this anyway. He has the McDonald's like manual. He's sitting there with the McDonald's manual reading that joint, and he's got a burger phone with the sesame seeds.
Yeah, exactly. But I ain't gonna lie. When they first saw it, I didn't even know he was reading the McDonald's manual. I kind of missed it. I thought he was reading like an adult magazine. Well, I'm like, okay.
Bruh.
I mean, he ain't married. No, I mean, they don't have a wife anymore. I'm like,
true.
Then later on, I realized, no, this dude got the McDonald's manual up in that joint. And what I noticed too, of course, it takes me to notice something stupid. Like, come on, bro. But I just noticed a lot of stuff, right? He asked Lisa to throw in a plug for the salad bar. And I'm looking at the way that restaurant was set up when they went in. I'm like, where was you gonna put a salad bar in that little restaurant? Like, I know nobody but me would think of that, but that's it won't quite big enough. Bro.
But she didn't mention it. She was like,
no, I'm not doing that.
The Reverend had to mention that, Jim.
Yeah, so you mentioned the fact, they get jobs there, and of course, and we meet, Eric LaSalle's character, Mr. Soul Glow himself, or whose family owns a Soul Glow empire. And we, off top, we figure out, he's, how big of a jerk that he actually is. And so, yeah, we get to meet him in there. But the thing is, though, Pops likes him because he got a little money. I mean,
and it wasn't until after probably watching this a few times that I realized, even though Mr. McDowell is he's just worried about money for real, but maybe part of it is that he's worried about his daughters and
wants to have something,
struggling to even get to what he had, which he tried to hype up talking to Akeem later on. But just to get to what he had, it probably took a lot. So he's looking at his daughters like, in this world, they ain't gonna make it. They better get this money and go with this dude with the money. At least you'll have money. And that's something that we all trying to get.
Yeah, and Akeem quickly notices that, she's got somebody and seeing the whole interaction. So he ends up back at the barbershop and he's talking to the guys or whatever. And I think he wants to go in there and try to get his hair juiced up like old boy, because he thinks the key is in the curl. Like, it's in, can you make me look like that? He's like, why do you want to do something like that? And one of my favorite lines is, he said, I ain't never heard of no woman giving no man no good loving. That's because his hair look good. So you got to get in good with the father. And everybody agrees. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
Home free, like a boy.
That is the classic barbershop, though. Like, whether you in New York City, Richmond, wherever, the real old school barbershops, like they look kind of run down a little bit, got pictures on the wall of athletes, their favorite athletes, local or professional or whatever. And you always got to get those, one or two, in this case, 3 older barbers. Then you got the one guy who don't do nothing but come by and kick it every day, read the paper, talk sports, women, whatever.
I gotta give a shout out to my guys, because that's funny the way you explained it. Even though they're not old, like nobody's old in this.
Yeah, but
No, I'm saying in my barbershop. In my barbershop, yeah, lower barbershop, my man Reggie and Rob. They could be in the movie. And you have the old Jewish guy, except these dudes are black, Tim and Bruce, who are both in the SBP, and they are the old Jewish guy of Lower Barbershop, 100%.
No doubt. So the double date, man, we kind of mentioned the basketball situation. They end up going to a basketball St. John's game, of course. So they're in New York, and it's at MSG. And they get there, and of course, Akeem has to end up double dating. He doesn't get to go, with Laura, but he has to end up going with his sister just to be in her presence. And we find out, as if we didn't already know, well, this one we really find out, his sister wild. She wilding. Wilding in public on the low. But it's crazy, man.
Bruh. I can't even do it. I can't do it. I'll tell you off camera.
Oh yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Hey man, but look, the one thing, of course, when he gets up to go to the restroom, after of course been insulted, of course, by Daryl, and then he goes to the restroom, and then the concession, when the concession guys walk by and sees like, oh my goodness, and he gets down and starts bowing, and he's trying like, okay, it's okay, get up, get up. The thing for me though, they had to throw that line in there. It's a little bit later. Of course, Lisa and them see this go down. Like, who is he? What do you meet him? Whatever. He said, oh, just someone that guy I met in the bathroom. And this sounds kind of bad, especially after these guys said, I will always remember this experience or something. Come on.
Exactly. And got Daryl there looking like, okay.
Giving Daryl more ammo, right?
Exactly.
But back at the restaurant, we finally see Samuel Jackson's character, and he comes in there, and your boy Samuel Jackson gonna stick up the place, which we find out later that he didn't stuck them up 5 times. Like Cleo ain't got no type of security in that joint. Like, what's up?
No type of security, and he got the strap. He come in, do what he do. I mean, who knows? It could have been a hustle. Knowing Cleo, it could have been a hustle. He might have cut him 20%. I don't know. But what was great about this, everything about the scene is great. Like the dialogue, to watching Daryl dive on the floor, to Semi, making eye contact with Akeem and pulling out that stick, which is like the sticks that they were fighting with before they left when they were doing their workout. They were going for Patman, so that joint was perfect. He was ready. Everything about this scene is great to me.
Yeah, and we got to see Samuel Jackson in one of his smaller parts. We always talk about smaller parts, and not always the parts we remember him in. They get bigger parts later. We talked about when we did Juice. He was in Juice. A lot of people don't remember that that's him until you mentioned it. That has those 2 or 3 parts in Juice. But in this one, a lot of people, when you go back, even though you didn't really know Samuel Jackson that much back then, because he only had like a couple of smaller parts before this one. This one will move as soon as you go back instantly. Oh yeah, that's Samuel Jackson. Oh man, I didn't know this. And you think about it, because that year, the same year is when he did School Days.
Yeah.
The same year he ended up doing School Days, and then a little bit later he ended up on Do the Right Thing, and he was starting to rise. But he was lesser known back then.
And he dropped an F-bomb at least one time, which is
wouldn't be Samuel.
Jackson. You got to get it in there. That might have been the beginning of the F-bombs.
So the gathering back at the McDowell place, where there's a family gathering, there seemed to be some, some people there that, are very close to the family for a lot of reasons. And we find out at this gathering that your boy Daryl, being the slime ball that he is, had told Mr. McDowell that he popped a question to Lisa, right? And Lisa had agreed, right? But the trip part about this whole scene is one of the most classic ones that has memes and gifs and everything all across social media, is when Mr. McDowell asked Daryl's family to come up there and join him for a drink. And this is and you already know I'm going to the part on the couch where they left all the Jerry curl juice on the couch. But let me tell you what's even funnier. It won't just if there were spots on it. The joint was running. Like, it dripped all the way. Come on, bro.
They had that joint juicy. It was at an event. That joint had to be juicy.
Man, like that is classic, man. That is classic. And then of course we get definitely my favorite line from the movie, when your boy Reverend Brown is in there talking about he helped Joshua in the Battle of Jericho. He helped Daniel get out the lion's den. He helped Gilligan get off the island.
That's the one. That's the one right there.
And shout out to the youngins who didn't see this movie till years later, because you might have to go back and figure out who Gilligan was, right?
Yeah.
Those of you that are not really in your 40s or whatever, or mid to late 30s, but that may be my favorite, or at least my most memorable line. I've always remembered that from the first time I saw it. Have Gilligan get off the island.
That's a great one. I use it all the time. Use it all the time.
And I don't know how great that really was, though, if you think about it. But Gilligan ended right back up on that island.
Yeah.
By mistake. But anyway.
It took a minute. Even when he got off the island, he was right back on the island.
Yeah. So so of course, she's Lisa's all upset and everything. And Akeem tries to comfort her and he goes out there. And it's crazy because he goes out there, if I remember right. So didn't he only have 2 glasses in the bottle?
He not only had the 2 glasses in the bottle, he brought her coat. See, he was the man. This was the
smooth
that knew what she needed when she needed it. And he brought her coat when she was sitting outside in the cold, put that joint on her. She already knew. She was like, this dude is different. He's different. But she was.
And I think it was 2 parts of that. One, that she really realized that he was different. But also, I don't think she actually still really realized that he only had 2 glasses. Like, you see what I'm saying? You think she was thinking like, well, he's going to have glasses in the bottle because he's in there serving alcohol to the people.
Mm.
Or did he really bring this out here just for, because I don't see any other indication other than the fact that he brought the jacket or whatever out, that she really knew that he was bringing these 2 glasses out here just for, he and I to drink, versus it being just he's going to have those glasses because he's serving guests inside the party.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think she would have thought that deeply into it because she was.
We know what he was thinking.
Oh yeah, he was like, oh yeah, this is a moment. Let me go ahead and take advantage of this jump. And plus, he cared about her in general, so he wanted to make sure she was all right, just off rip. So, because he was a respectable, loving man who was looking for his queen.
So I think this is about the time they agree to go out, and a little bit later they agree to go out and have dinner, and talk. And so they go back to his apartment. She was just like, she don't care. She knows that he's poor. He tries to get around it. She said, I'm fine with it. I just, at this point, I just want to spend time with you and talk. I don't care about your living. And we see your boy and fix the apartment up. Your boy Simi, he took this, get the apartment straight, fix it up, whatever, to another level. I keep telling him earlier, pretty much the cleaner. Your boy, they put a hot tub in there, brand new TV, stereo, painted the joint.
Yeah, it was real.
And he knew what Akeem meant, right?
Get all that in the building, dog. How did they even get that in the building that same day? I'm thinking too deeply into this, but that was a lot going on in one day for them to set up that joint.
And so when, of course, Akeem realized what happened, when he sees what happens in this joint, of course, he kind of slides back out, then let her into the apartment, plays it off, lies to her, so she won't come in there and realize that realistically he's not poor and they got money. So they agree to go out to eat dinner. And along the way, they're talking about everything that's going on in life, getting to know each other. And Akeem passes 2 homeless gentlemen out on the streets, is out there sleeping and laid up. And on the low, he slips them a little something, which ends up being quite a bit of money.
A stack, yeah.
And
because he took the money from Simi, so he couldn't get into any more trouble. So he put the money in the bag, rolled it up, and just took it out.
Yeah, and when we get to see Randall and Mortimer from Trading Places, right? And had you seen Trading Places before you saw this movie?
Yes, and that made the moment super dope because I don't think there was any movie before that I had seen, and they, characters overlapped or something like that overlapped. That was dope. I love that.
And that was about had it been about a 4 or 5 year difference. I think Trading Places was
83.
Yeah, Trading Places was around like 83, 84-ish. It was between 83 and 84. Yeah. I remember that. So that was cool how they played into that. And I love that. We're back, and I thought that was awesome. And what I also thought was awesome was when they were at dinner, and of course they showed up. They find Akeem and Lisa actually eating dinner, And it comes up, and the first thing when one of them says is, "Let's do lunch," right? Let's do lunch. That takes you back into the time when they had money. They were used to saying stuff like that, you know. So, you know, if you go back to, you know, Trading Places, so the way they slipped that in, I thought was pretty. They could have just been like, "Hey, thanks again, whatever," but no, let's do lunch. Let's have lunch. I thought that was pretty cool.
Very detailed. Yep.
And then your boy Semi, you get a shout out to your boy Semi, of course. The Semi that went up to the Western Union joint trying to request some cash. He asked for what, 300,000 the first time. And the lady being sarcastic, like, "You sure that's enough?" Like, you know, maybe 400,000, you know. And what's he talking about too? Was it $1 million? Was it
$1 million? Why not a cool $1 million?
And he's like, "You don't think that's too much?" Like, you know, which of course he asked for that money, and also was kind of tips off the king back in Zamunda, like, "They left with all this money, got money. Why is he asking for all this money? You know, all this exorbitant amount of money now?" And that kind of tips off the king, because it kind of leads a little bit later to the king to make the trip to Queens to come looking for his son, man. And he was riding like real royalty too up in that joint, man.
Always. He will never step foot anywhere without some rose petals being laid down and a drum beat being played from somewhere.
Yeah, and he goes into the barbershop, of course, and looking for our king. And you know, and the guy's like, "Boy from Africa, you know, Kunta upstairs," like, "Oh, yeah." trying to get the whereabouts of where he's staying at. And they go up to the apartment, and they see your boy the landlord up there, walk into the apartment. And the crazy joint is the landlord is in there living luxurious, right? Got cigarette. Didn't they say have his hat on in the tub?
Hat on, cigar, chilling.
He moves into the spot, but he never takes Akeem's Employee of the Month picture down. Like
he said, details. I ain't worried about the details. I got this jacuzzi tub in the middle. That's all that really matters.
And the king finds out that Akeem is working, and he was like, "My son works." Like, that's so beneath him, you know, because they're royalty. And so he takes his wife and all his followers that came with him. They go down to the restaurant. That's when we saw your boy. Your boy was there at the restaurant with that cheeseburger phone or whatever. And what you mentioned.
Man had the McDonald's manual log or something like that, and a cheeseburger phone. Like, he's on the phone, and he specifically said, you know, their burgers have seeds, mine are seedless. Yet he is on the phone with the bun with the seeds on it.
With the seeds on it. It's crazy, man. So of course, when he gets down there and he talks to him, talks to Mr. McDowell, and he talks to everybody, and he leaves them. You know, he didn't want anybody to know that they're there. He finds out he's dating his daughter. He can't be in love with his daughter. He's supposed to be married and all this, but.
Right.
And so they get down and he leaves them some money, and that's when your boy Mr. McDowell sees the Prince of Zamunda own the money, and he realized, "Hey, Akeem rich."
Oh, Akeem got dough. He real.
Yeah.
I ain't know. Lisa done did it again, boy. Lisa did it again.
And so he's like, "You call me. I'm going back to the Waldorf story or whatever. You call me when you can hear from them, you find out where they are, whatever." And so the crazy part about this though is when they call him, if we forward up, and I don't know if I'm missing anything, right? But when Akeem and they go back and he sees the rose petals, he's going back to the place and he sees the rose petals,
right?
And nobody had to call him. He realized, shoot, my dad's here. Like,
yes.
And he gets a little shook. So he goes, they don't go back in, he makes up an excuse, he takes Lisa home. And when he walks her in, all of a sudden, Mr. McDowell went from treating him just like, just a minimum wage worker, kid from Africa, minimum wage worker, to like, this is that dude, this is the guy who's offering him all types of food, snacks, sit down, stay. And Akeem is trying to leave, so he can get back and try to tend to this business, before things go left. He doesn't really want to let him leave. He goes in there in the kitchen. What do you have? Was it pigs in the blanket?
Blanket.
Like,
first of all,
he offered him a drink.
Yeah. I'll wait. I'll wait till we get to the king part.
Yeah, so, but the funniest part of that to me is when they get there and Daryl shows up at the door. And Daryl shows up with some flowers and everything. He's determined that he's gonna win, Lisa back, and he's gonna, after he told that lie about she agreed to marry him in the whole 9 yards. And he rings the doorbell. Of course, Cleo goes to the door. She don't want you no more. This and the third, whatever. This and he shuts the door in his face, leaves. Daryl rings the doorbell again. He goes back up there. Daryl wouldn't leave before Daryl could really get a bunch of words in. He slams the door and she don't want you, and shuts the door. But the third time he falls up the steps going back to open that door. Then he gonna sick Dottie on her. Dottie ain't but like this big. Like,
bruh, when he fell, he laughing. But when he took off, like when he went to go to the door, I immediately saw that scene from the Blaxploitation joint when he was Kansas City Mac, because he got ready to run. And
yes,
the way he run, he dropped down and then go. And I saw him do. I was like, yo, he run. He's
joint. And so of course, in the middle of all that, your boy Akeem realizes, now I got to get up out here. So Akeem leaves when he gets the chance, and Mr. McDowell doesn't know. When Mr. McDowell comes out looking for him, and speaks, where's Akeem? He had to go, or whatever. And she realizes, like, why are you treating him so good? Or this, that, and the third. He's just trying to play it off like, he's a nice kid that likes him, because he didn't really want his daughter to feel like all of a sudden he's liking him because she realized that he's rich, that he's got money. But then, of course, she gives him little daughter eyes. We both got daughters, so we know how this thing goes. Daddy, and so he tells the truth. He got his own money. And when I say he got his own money, he got his own money. And he pulls out the bill that was left by the king, that Ohad had given him. And she sees the picture, and all of a sudden, all types of emotions runs through her. She's hurt, she's confused, she doesn't know which way to go at this point. Exactly. And it's crazy scene, man.
Her confused, trying to figure out why he lie. Wait, he's a prince. But if he's a prince, then why did? But yeah, it's a lot of things going on. That whole joint is funny, and then that's when the family shows up, right? The king and crew.
They show up at Mr. McDowell's crib.
Yeah.
And he's looking for his son, and he pretty much tells him he's trying to stall him out for a minute. And
come on, Debo.
Huh? Yeah, Mr. McDowell's trying to stall him out for a minute. And of course, the king, he told me my son was here. And then they really have the real conversation. James pretty much tells him that, my son is arranged to be married. And, he said, where's your daughter? So he goes upstairs to speak with Lisa. Lisa actually going upstairs. And she finds out everything. He pretty much said, my son can't be with you. He came here to sow his royal oats. You know how Lisa takes that. So he really just came here to find somebody so he can smash, hit, whatever, have all the fun before he gets married. Mm-hmm. She's super hurt there at that point. And then the family leaves. And the whole time you can kind of feel now that after some of the interactions that the queen is kind of, she's feeling for his son. She doesn't totally, she wants him to be happy. So she doesn't really totally agree with everything that the king is doing. But she's just kind of just playing along because she's the wife. But at some point, you kind of had the feeling right there that she's going to say something after a while. Like she's...
Yeah, she definitely, she saw that Lisa was upset and asked her, was she all right? And then she rolled out, and she already knew whatever was wrong with her was based on what her husband had said to her in that moment. So she was not feeling it.
You know what I love about that scene, though? Through all the comical stuff that we got to see from John Amos and that's when the James Evans came out in that joint. It was like, oh, what you say to my daughter? I'm gonna break my foot up in your royal, you know what I'm saying? Your royal behind. Like, that's the James Evans came out for a quick second, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Akeem, once Akeem chases, he tries to find Lisa. He sees her. He's riding out, being chauffeured around. He's in the car with Oha, and he sees Lisa and starts to pursue her. She makes it down to the subway, and he follows her over down to the subway through several subway cars, tries to speak with her. She's just not having it. He even explains to her the reason that he didn't tell her the truth, basically because he wanted her to care for him the way that he is, and not just because maybe he was royalty and had money. But at this point, she's just so far gone. She's went through everything with the situation with Daryl. She gets into this situation right on, back to back. She's been, had been misled and lied to, even though we feel like it was for a good reason. She just doesn't know what to think. She's real emotional. Says, goodbye to Akeem, whatever, and basically, she goes her separate ways. They go their separate ways. And of course, he gets the old lady that hears everything in the subway. It's like, if you're really a prince, I'll marry you.
And he gave her the earrings that he had sent to Lisa previously.
How much was it? Was it 500,000? Was it?
Yeah, that's what somebody said. Them just cost 500,000, $500,000.
Some real green right there. So we headed back to Zamunda. And we see an exchange, a very important exchange between the king and the queen. And they're discussing the situation that's going on, what had happened with Akeem. And it's like, she's pretty much, well, why can't they be married? He was just like, basically, no, we've got, rules and traditions, and it's against tradition. And she comes back, with, the way, women do us sometimes, and respect, especially if you're married, or if you're in a long relationship. She kind of hit those, how to hit your buttons, hit the right button. She kind of looks at him and says, well, he says it's against tradition. She was like, well, you can change that. I mean, you are the king.
Yeah. He said, who am I to change tradition? She said, I thought you were the king.
I thought you were the king. And the way she said it, if you kind of look at her expression, it's like, I thought you was like that dude, the man, real slick and sly with it. Women know how to push our buttons. All of a sudden he's sitting there like, in his mind, like, yeah, she right. I'm the man, I'm the man around here, the whole now, yeah, I can change. He don't say that, but that's just kind of what she was shooting for. And we know inside that's kind of what we were getting. Even though he didn't have a, real expression at that time. So when they finally get back to Zamunda, the 40 days, I don't even know if they made it 40, they didn't make it 40 days, but they finally get back to Zamunda, and, we're about to go on, and the wedding, the prearranged wedding is about to reconvene. And they're all standing there, and all of a sudden you see the princess to be, walking down the aisle. And then we get to the part when they finally raise her veil. We find out it is Lisa. It is Lisa. Everything is fixed. So we can think at this time that the king has gone through great lengths to repair all the damage that was done, and everything that, that he did while he was down in Queens to make this thing happen. And we know that he has, because not only once we see Akeem's face, he's like the happiest, like a kid that got every toy he ever asked for in one Christmas, like every toy. We always had, you growing up, you might have had a brick, whatever it is. Sometimes you were looking for a gift, and you might have got, especially when you were young and you used to getting more than one thing, but you might have got one or two things. He got everything. You see what I'm saying? And he was happy. Then of course we see Mr. McDowell also leaning on the king's throne. He pops into the screen. He got a big smile on his face. Everything is fixed. My daughter happy. She paid now. She gonna be good. And that's pretty much where it takes us at that point.
Yeah. So we can assume that all that went down behind the scenes. Well, we know all that went down behind the scenes because Akeem had no idea. He thought that he was just going to be marrying the first woman, Vanessa Bell Calloway's character. Mm-hmm. And yet, and that means he had given up. He had thrown in the towel on the whole thing. He was like, man, forget it. I can't, I tried and didn't work out. I guess this is what my life is going to be resorting to. And thankful for him, or thankful to his family that he was able to marry the woman that he wanted to marry.
And that's pretty much the end of the movie, man. It's happily ever after, so we think. And because he does ask her, basically he really hit a home run. But basically, when they're riding off after the wedding, I don't know if they were headed to, I guess, a honeymoon, wherever they were heading to. But she asked him, would you give all this up? You really gonna give all this up for me and all that? He was like, I give it all up right now. But if you're not happy, you want to get up. And she's like, nah, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. This is princess type stuff right here.
He was ready to renounce his throne once again, like he did in the subway.
Indeed. But so one thing we skipped over, and it's not even that big a deal, but I kind of mentioned it earlier, was we were really tripping off how wild her sister was, though. So we didn't even mention the fact that after your boy Daryl couldn't get inside the crib, he ends up at her door, I guess on her side of the house or whatever. Like, for what reason? Like, and she's like, oh, this first time you cold and wet out there. She said, get you out of these clothes. Like, sister was wild, bro.
Yeah, she was looking for a come up. Lisa was looking for whatever, soulmate or whatever. But little sis was looking for a come up, and she tried to grab Semi. Well, she didn't really try to grab Akeem because
Akeem,
that was just her being herself, I guess.
Yeah.
When Semi told her the story, she was ready to give in to him. And then she was like, that didn't work out. And Daryl came to the door. She was like, oh, well, guess I'll take these sloppy seconds.
Let's get you out of these clothes. Like, sister was wild, right?
Yeah, she was.
You think she ended up with Daryl for real? Or that was
Nah, her daddy would have killed her. Maybe.
I don't know. He got money.
Maybe in that moment.
Or that moment, he probably would have killed her. So, awesome movie, awesome flick. We talk about McDowell's, right? Do you know what McDowell's really was? It wasn't a McDonald's.
No idea.
Got my peeps up north put me onto this, and it's been confirmed a couple times. McDowell's was actually a Wendy's.
Ah.
Yeah, and looking at it, if you think about back then, that was in a time period where we still see it somewhat now, but not totally. But back then, it was a big push in a lot of businesses, especially restaurants, to try to make each location look the same.
The same, yeah.
The inside of McDowell's, and that's why I was tripping about the salad bar, even though there was a small one, but out in Chester, the one off of Route 10, just before you get to Chester Meadows Shopping Center, the inside of that back then kind of resembled what McDowell's looks like in Coming to America.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm 100. In that one. So, but that was a Wendy's, and according to another one of my folks up north, up there, that has since been, I believe, torn down a few years ago, and it was a landmark for a little while. And I think they built like an office building that it had like 6 levels of apartments on top of the office building in that space, like high-rise style. All right. The barbershop scenes, some of the most classic in movies. And we really found out, like Eddie Murphy's, like we knew he was funny, but the talent was off the chain, inevitable. Just like when we saw years later in a Nutty Professor. Whether you are fans of the Nutty Professor, the Clumps or not, which I know most people are, you got it, like those table scenes were some of the funniest ever, the majority of the folks being played by Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. He jump into those characters. Just to be able to jump into those characters and put those lines together, those moments as each person, that takes a lot. I can imagine just thinking about the time that it took for each character, and then to put that stuff together, because it can't be in order. Like, different people, you're doing different lines, and for them to put that joint in that type of order, and then it's crazy. It's crazy.
Indeed. So let's get down to it, bro. We already know. Everybody realize this is a classic movie. This is a classic movie. So 5 beers, bro. You got 5 beers. How many beers is this movie to you?
All of them.
All of them.
5 of them things.
5 of them things. Definitely a 5 with me too. I mean, it's no question. You mentioned that's your second favorite. Is it your second favorite comedy or your second favorite movie, period?
It's my second favorite movie, period. And my favorite 2 movies are comedies.
Yeah.
So we discussed the other one. We actually, the very first Run It Back, we did my favorite movie, which is Friday. And for some time, it was Friday and Come to America, it was back and forth, or which one was number one. It's kind of like my Low End Theory versus Midnight Marauders back and forth, where one was the obvious favorite, but not really, and then it was the other one, but the obvious favorite. And then it just back and forth. But over the past probably 10 years, I guess, I've been pretty much settled, at least like 7 years, I've been pretty much settled on Friday being number one and Come to America being number 2.
Yeah, between those 2, for me, it's whichever one I'm watching that day. It's hard. It's hard. But yeah, definitely 5 beers on the scale of 1 to 5. Classic. And one reason it's a classic, I had the experience a few years ago I just called it an internship for coaching football. And there were some kids, this is a few years ago, so these are high school kids, that I don't even know how we got in the conversation, but they had seen this movie, and they were like 3 or 4 of the kids were like, man, that's class. Man, this and such, and not a lot of the words to the movie. When you can get kids, high school kids, that are into a movie that came out, a comedy 25, years ago or more, and they know the movie and they admit that it's good, that's when it's a classic. You're not getting many kids, many of our youth today, to watch a lot of the stuff, or most of the stuff that we watched, 25, 30 years ago. There's going to be certain things they may watch or they may do, but it's not going to be a whole lot. But this is one of those movies. So if I get high school kids to recite lines from a movie and they love it, it tells you a lot.
It does. Similar to music as well. I had a kid that I worked with, young kid. He wasn't even 20, part-time joint. And he was a Nas fanatic. Like, he knew Illmatic line for line. And it was shocking. Same as what you're saying right now. It was shocking. Cool to see, though, that somebody schooled him on something that was before his time, but it was dope, and he was able to take it as being dope as well.
No doubt, no doubt. And in ending, I will say, I don't know how both you and I forgot this. I think you were on the verge of saying it. How many times did you see it before you realized, of course it had to be years later because he was nobody back then, but you realized that was Cuba Gooding Jr. sitting in that chair?
Early, I think so, but yeah, he was in that joint. And we didn't mention Louis Anderson. And the McDowell employee number 1, apparently, because he was the only one that was always there. Steve White.
Make his way to Fry's.
Yeah. Couple years, I'll be assistant manager. And that's when the big bucks start rolling in. They had Steve White on the train, the black guy on the train.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a lot of dope cameos. And I think this is, like, I guess before then, when it was like the Let's Do It Again and Saturday Night Fever, that time frame, you had it was just all the black actors,
Yes.
The black movies. That's what this felt like. It felt like a lot of black actors that or may have gotten to know later were in this movie, and it's dope to be able to go back and look at them younger and early in their career and see what's possible.
Yeah, and I forget my man's name too. But the guy that played, that was a concession guy.
I started to ask you if you knew what his name was too.
Now usually I could probably call him. Of course, he's a lesser known actor. He's had a lot of small parts, but he had been in the game for a minute because he did a lot of stuff with Robert Townsend when Robert Townsend was putting guys on.
And Vanessa Bell's father early in the movie. I don't know his name either, but
he been a lot of.
You see his face, and you like,
yeah. Been in some blaxploitation flicks. Yep, no doubt. Yeah. Man, but that was fun, man. That was fun reliving a classic, Coming to America. And like you say, in a couple of weeks, I guess we're going to go ahead and do something that we don't normally do. We're going to actually revisit, which will be a current movie by then, which will be Coming to America, but it's the second movie. We're going to get right on that. And if we're doing this, we got to go in and watch this and give our thoughts and just go ahead and review it, revisit that one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next week we got the NBA All-Star Weekend, or what's left of NBA All-Star Weekend season in Atlanta. So we'll talk a little NBA, but the week after that we should be able to get back, and that gives people a chance to check out Coming to America 2, which drops on March 5th. Yeah,
indeed. So we thank everybody for rocking with us. If you're new to what we're doing here, we appreciate you for listening and watching. The Sports Bar Podcast Group on Facebook, SBP. You can find us there for all of your needs, man. Sports, hip hop, television, movies. We got it all. We drink a little beer in there too. We do it all. So we invite you to join us on that and replay some of the old stuff we did. Stay tuned for the new stuff. It's going to be, it's a heck of a ride, man. We want y'all to take it with us.
Indeed. I am at Smitty Source on Instagram and Twitter, at Smitty Source on both of those. I'm never on Twitter. I still say Twitter, but I'm never on Twitter. You can catch me on IG or in Facebook, on Facebook in the SBP group.
At Prime, SBK, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm there sometimes. Be out.
Yes. So, I guess we out of here. Catch y'all. Peace.